Hello everyone, and welcome to the beautiful environment of Verdant Brink. This luxurious area is perfect for vacations and family members. Just be sure if your children come, please arm them with a dagger. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So the last two build videos have been beginner focused on Revenant and Guardian, and I thought what better way than to round out this trio with the third heavy armor class, this being the Warrior. Now Warrior is the very basic archetype of a warrior, much like other MMOs where you wield weapons, you do physical damage, you do a lot of things with your hands and your body, and you are up in front of the combat. So with this build, it's playing into that classic archetype. It's playing into the weapon master. It's playing into the somewhat tankiness you will be able to survive, as with all of these beginner builds. But this one in particular on the warrior does offer maybe a little bit more strike damage than the others. It's focused on faster attacks and also utilizing the warrior's profession mechanic, the F1 adrenaline burst skill. So let's go over the actual armor, then we'll go over the traits, and then we'll talk about some gameplay. So for the armor, I'm running a mixture of soldiers, or 3 pieces, and marauders. Soldiers gives a little bit extra toughness and vitality, with Marauders focusing slightly more on damage with power, precision, vitality, and ferocity. Now the runes I'm running are slightly more expensive for beginners, but they are a great source of damage. You get power, ferocity, and then when you're above 90% health, you gain a flat 5% increased damage. Now as for the weapons, I'm running dual axe, which is going to be your primary damage, and then dual mace, which will be more so your control, somewhat self-defense. And then as for your rings, ascended accessories, all that stuff, I'm running a mixture of soldiers and marauders for my legendary gear. And then as for my ascended, I am currently working on my legendary collection, so I'm just running berserkers. Next, for the build, I'm running strength, arms, and discipline. This is a core warrior focus. So for strength, I'm running peak performance because we're using some physical skills. I'm taking great fortitude to give myself even extra vitality and ferocity. And then finally, I'm taking might makes right. Gain health and endurance whenever you apply might to yourself. And you gain might, I believe, from using a heal skill. You can if you take restorative strength, but also damage foes at the end of your dodge roll. That gives you some extra might. So if you want to play a little bit more and you're maybe dying somewhat, if you want to have some extra healing and endurance, you could of course swap out peak performance for restorative strength, but you'll lose a little bit of that damage. If you don't want to take might makes right, berserker's power is honestly a go-to. It's really, really great. And then next for arms, I'm taking Signet Mastery, then I'm taking Unsuspecting Foe, and then finally for the Grandmaster, this is where a lot of your damage comes into play, Dual Wielding. Attack speed is increased when wielding a main hand weapon in your offhand. This is why I'm wielding double axe and double mace, because it's so delicious. It's so yummy. And then finally for discipline, we are running Warrior Sprint, which means I run faster when wielding melee weapons. Also, movement skills will break immobilization when I use a movement skill, just in case if I am immobed, get some extra damage as well. Next, Destruction of the Empowered. Deal increased strike damage per boon on your target. In PVE scenarios, oftentimes enemies won't have a lot of boons, which I hope changes even retroactively. I wouldn't mind seeing some of the enemy NPCs get a little bit extra boon uptime. And then finally for the Grandmaster, I'm taking Burst Mastery. Burst skills deal more damage, your F1, and they grant swiftness and restore a portion of adrenaline spent. Your F1 on Axe Eviscerate is your hard-hitting ability, something you really want to be using quite a bit. You could also take Axe Mastery because we are dual-wielding axes. Gain ferocity, gain additional ferocity in wielding an axe. Axe skills gain reduced recharge, and grant adrenaline when critically striking. This is a really strong axe trait. But for the sake of making it a bit more applicable to Mace as well, I am taking Burst Mastery. So here we're going to just go into combat. One of my traits, is it peak performance? Yes, this is where your physical skills come into play. You will, every time you use a physical skill, this being mending, kick, or stomp, you will gain this buff, which increases your power by 10%. Also, to briefly mention, my other two utilities are signets to play off of the Signet Mastery trait. I'm taking Signet of Fury and Signet of Rage, excuse me. Signets gain reduced recharge and grant a stacking ferocity boon on use. So this is actually really important to gain more of that strong crit damage. So while you're still able to sustain yourself quite well, because you just already have a lot of toughness and vitality, you will definitely be able to deal some of that damage. Another reason why I really enjoy the physical skills is because mending is extremely strong. Mending is a really strong heal of around 6,000 on a 12-second cooldown when you trade for it. Here, I'm going to use Eviscerate here. Wha-bam! Big damage, 2,000 on a husk, and husks have extremely high toughness, which means you're not going to be getting a lot of flat damage on them for that particular enemy type. But as you could see when I used Eviscerate, it chunked him down. Getting it down, Eviscerate, big damage, 3,000. If it crit, that would have gone 6,000, but we have no problem here. Gonna get some use out of that peak performance. I'm gonna stomp because I can, and then I'm gonna use back into mace. Now, I really enjoy using mace, and I would actually recommend mace for newer players because you have a constant application of weakness on your auto attack. Now, weakness might not seem like an extremely powerful condition, but when you're newer, it is really great to reduce the damage that you're taking, and weakness does that by applying a 50% fumble chance on your enemies, which means they will do half the damage that they were intending to do if they do strike you. As you can see, I get some glancing blows, which means I'm not taking the full amount of damage, I'm only taking a portion of it. I'm gonna interrupt here. Additionally, why I enjoy Mace is because as you can see here, you get some really great crowd control options. Ooh, I did get stunned. One thing about this build though is that you might not have a lot of access to stability or stun breaks. The only real stun break you get is with your stomp ability on my 8th skill. But in open world, if you are not being attacked by multiple mobs, you should be fine. So now we're gonna quickly go down to the Corpse Grove, the blighting area in Heart of Thorns, and start to fight some of the more dangerous Mordrum and see how we can fare. Already getting some damage dealt to me. Always good because your heal is on a really short cooldown. You really don't even have to wait till half health. If you're taking damage, you can definitely feel comfortable popping mending, which also just makes sure that you can stay alive a little bit extra. Already gonna use a heal there. It also goes into my damage increase, so definitely never be afraid of using your mending skill off cooldown, particularly when you need to use it. Eviscerate, I'm gonna pop that, and we're gonna knock him down. Interrupt again, and hopefully we can get some weakness on him. We're gonna interrupt to make sure they don't charge us. Gonna strike that, get some vulnerability off of them, and we're gonna eviscerate. Almost dead, almost done. Gonna pop another heal. And I don't play a lot of warrior, so I was really able to pick up this build quite quickly, and I would really highly recommend it to everyone. We're taking some damage here, so we're gonna just align a sight till our healing comes off cooldown. Once again, this is Heart of Thorns area, and Heart of Thorns is definitely not super beginner friendly. We are even finding level 81 up mobs. We're gonna just run away here real quick. So Heart of Thorns is a very difficult area, and this build is more so tailored to newer players who only really have Quarteria unlocked. So in Ore, you'll have a pretty easy time. I can almost guarantee you that, especially if I'm able to, with maybe some more skill of understanding of line of sighting and using the terrain to my advantage, I'm still able to survive in Heart of Thorns. So in Ore and throughout the core game experience in dungeons, you should have a good time dealing some damage and also maybe not dying in 1 or 2 hits, but being able to survive. So everyone, that was my more beginner slanted, somewhat easier to play build for the warrior. It really is all about learning your weapon skills. Your utilities can be nice to weave in every once in a while, like the kick can be a nice interrupt. Your stomp you really can just save that as your stun break. And then for the signets, as a newer player, you don't have to use them whenever. They are great because they have passive effects. So you can just almost forget about them until you're more comfortable trying to utilize their active abilities every now and again. But mostly for newer players when playing warrior, I would say learn your weapon skills. That's where the bulk of your damage is going to come from. And also using your F1 ability, your profession burst mechanic. But thank everyone for coming. Like the video if you liked it, comment down below your thoughts about this build. Would you recommend any other utility skills or maybe minor tweaks to perhaps people who are new to Warrior? If you'd like to support the channel, you can head over to Patreon and get early access to videos and exclusive videos. And if you'd like to pre-order End of Dragons, the 3rd expansion to Guild Wars 2, I have links below. Thank you so much, Renanette. And I will catch you all in the next video. Bye, everyone!